might have made a little impact when we, oh, all right, cool. So not only does it look like cylinder 1 is considerably lower, you can see impact damage all across the top of this piston. This is a 2-liter turbo diesel engine out of a roughly 2012 Passat. And this is, or I guess was is more accurately, a Dieselgate survivor. I know a lot of people have some big Dieselgate feelings, including me. We'll talk about those in a little bit. But allegedly what happened is some poor workmanship led to catastrophic failure of this thing. So in this video, we're gonna tear it down. We're gonna figure out exactly what went wrong and hopefully why. Also, I've never torn one of these engines down before. There are some pretty unique things to this engine that I'll make sure I point out as we go. So this is gonna be a pretty cool learning experience for all of us. All right, let me set the stage for this engine inside of a roughly 2012 to 2014 Passat. This side right here where the timing is going to be on the passenger side. This will be at the very front. So here's your oil dipstick right here. And then the turbocharger is going to be close to the firewall at the back side of the engine compartment. And then coming off of here is going to be all your cheating, lying, deceptive diesel emissions controls. By the way, I have a special hatred for the Dieselgate situation because that cost me like 30 grand in income that year. But those days are gone. That was 10 years ago. Let's move on and figure out just what actually happened to this thing. Also, real quick, this is the high pressure fuel pump. This is part of the fuel system that when it fails, blasts metal throughout the whole fuel system. Those bills, when they were failing all the time, were like $7,000 to repair. So they got real spicy. First up though, let's get our timing cover off and see what we got going on. I wanted to say under the hood, but that's real corny. We're already there. Behind the cover, behind the curtain. Somebody's put a timing belt on this car. They don't come with that timing belt from the factory. Also, you'll notice there's some orange marks here on the pulley. There's purple ones, but I put those on there. So another sign that somebody's probably been pretty deep into this engine. Also, every time we do an engine teardown video, you guys always ask me, how many miles are on that engine? I don't know on this one. But I can tell you, there's a lot of places where it's really obvious someone has made repair, like Phillips head screws at the backside of the engine. Let me get this off. I want to show you guys the timing circuit next. This is always so much easier than when you're doing it in the car. Now you'll notice there's this little notch in the cover right here. That's so you can slide the crank lock tool right in there, which is cool. I don't know how necessary that is, but it's neat. All right, with that cover out of the way, this exposes our timing circuit. So we have our crankshaft right here. This is just a roller. This one is our water pump. This is our tensioner. This is another like relay roller or auxiliary roller. Here's our high pressure fuel pump. And then this is our camshaft. Now this is a dual cam engine, but the cams are linked at the back side of the engine. That's really cool. That's one of the coolest things about this engine. If you were doing a timing belt on this, you're supposed to lock the crankshaft, lock the camshaft, lock the high pressure fuel pump, and then you loosen the bolts on the cam and the high pressure pump to get all your timing right. It's not hard, but it does require some special tools. This is not an engine that you mark and pray on, in my opinion, which is just putting marks and then transferring them. This is one you probably do want to lock up and make sure you do it right. That tensioner does feel really neat. Normally they pop. Just trying to tap it to pop the tension. Oh, there it goes. Turns out if you tap it the right way, it might do better. If you're doing a timing belt on one of these, be a lot more careful than I'm being right now. None of this stuff's going back on. This belt can be a challenge to get onto, even with all the gears loose and that. This is also, that like this timing belt job, oh, did you see the fuel pump snap? This timing belt job is one of those that you definitely want to follow the repair manual on how to time this. Like you can get the belt on, but you might get your high pressure fuel pump out of time. Your water pump's not a problem though. Don't worry about that one. So you'll notice the gear where I took the bolts off is slotted. That's to help you time your engine. So you actually have some adjustment to be sure that your tension is correct on the belt side, as well as your camshafts, both of them are timed properly. So Dieselgate, the hot topic. I remember so vividly when that whole scandal dropped. Two vivid memories I have. One, I was really mad because the TDI customers were our best customers. They did all the maintenance. They also had the car that required the most maintenance. So instantly, our best customers, timeout, pause, we're not spending any money. Then there was this woman that was told that, you know, this is an environment-saving car. She traded it in like 2 weeks before they announced all the extra stuff for customers. I don't know whatever happened to that lady, but I hope she got some sort of retribution. So this piece that goes on the high-pressure fuel pump is actually pressed on, and you're supposed to have a special tool that holds it and you pop it off. But what I did was I just ran 2 bolts in that are a little bit longer but the same thread pitch and just gave them a little snug, and it popped right off. So I don't necessarily know that I'd love that method, but what I do know is that it worked, and for our case, it's totally fine. When we get the pump out, we'll see if these 2 witness marks that I left are on the case or if they're the high pressure fuel pump. I will say, if you're doing a timing belt, if there's a roller or something, or a tensioner or whatever in the circuit, replace it. It's gonna be easier to do it now than it is to wait. So I say, while you're in there. Also during that Dieselgate time, but they had given customers like a $500 gift card and then a $500 gift card to spend at the dealer. We had a small influx of work that came back. It never returned like it was. And listen, I'm not defending what Volkswagen or BMW or Mercedes or any of them did. Let me be very clear about that. Not at all. I, though, would love to see a study of the environmental impact from trying to make up for Dieselgate versus what the cars were extra polluting in dyno mode. How much pollution was happening from the trucks that came to pick these cars up from every dealership in the country. Short-sighted, I feel like. But I'm no expert. I think now, especially working with the high pressure fuel pump, let's get our fuel system off. The shop that gave me this engine, Apex Tuning, they hold on to some of this stuff because, you know, sometimes things break. And so we're gonna give all of the fuel components back to them. Our fuel system, this was probably for a while, like the bane of these TDI engines. Some of it was misfueling, but they had other failures too. The glow plugs were semi-common, but if you'll notice on all these fuel lines, so fuel comes in to the fuel filter housing, which is like over here, aux pump for fuel here, high pressure fuel pump, then went into the rail, then distributed out into the injectors. Well, these little rubber dampers on here were actually another recall that we had. I guess they were vibrating and cracking, so we would put these little rubber dampers on. You guys correct me if I'm wrong on this, because this was a long time ago, so some of the details are a bit fuzzy. I think we replaced the fuel line to cylinder 3 injector. I could be wrong on that one. So if I'm wrong, update that in the comments. Let us know. These have been known to crack. Also, these bolts that hold the injectors down, you'll see in a second, those also I've seen loosen up. You know what it sounds like? It sounds like an old Mercedes diesel. Clack, 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 because your fuel injector's bouncing all over the place. Because when that metal would go through it, it would just wreck everything. Like many VW Audis, this engine has a ton of triple squares. You've already seen me using a bunch. I just got these triple square set from Grip Edge. And what's cool about these, in addition to being M4 through M18, which you do need M18 and M16 for some things on VW, Audi, Porsche, they have round-proof technology. So instead of worrying about having to round out your triple squares, which you shouldn't, if your triple square is slightly rounded out, these will grab it and you should be able to get the bolt out. Those only came out like a week ago, I think. They're pretty fresh. There we go. Oh, drippy, drippy, drippy. Cool. All right, here is our high pressure fuel pump. Replaced so many of these things. And remember we talked about those witness marks. It did leave a slight witness mark on the body of the high pressure fuel pump. Just be careful if you're doing that. All right, here's our fuel rail. Still has fuel in it from Lord knows how long ago. A real good way to do this is to loosen these and then just crank the car over and they'll pop right out because of the compression. These injectors on the common rails, they do need to be coded to the ECM. So when you replace them, you have to go in and like write with the scan tool, write in what the numbers are for them. So if you got a TDI, a common rail that won't run, and it does not have this on it, That's probably why your injectors aren't firing. Also, if you're taking these injectors out, be sure to clean the valleys in the valve cover, because all that stuff can go down in your engine and you don't want that. My injectors, they didn't want to come out super easy, and I don't have the right slide hammer attachment. So what I did was I just sprayed some penetrant in there, let those soak for a little while. We'll move on to the intake manifold, which is here in the front. This piece here is essentially the throttle body. This is our EGR valve, and then this is our intake manifold. And I'm gonna take these off all at one time. There we go. Okay, here's our intake manifold. Not too exciting really. Now, in the Jettas, they actually had a valve inside that would lengthen and shorten the intake runners depending on load requirements, but it doesn't look like the Passat had that. So that makes this a little bit more simpler. Again, EGR, essentially throttle body. That exposes, oh boy, a whole bunch of yuck, and it also exposes our glow plugs. Now these glow plugs are kind of awesome. Not only did they function in the way like a traditional glow plug would, which is to warm the cylinder up, these also have a pressure sensor built into them, which means you can go in with the scan tool and look at measured values of each one of these and look at individual cylinder compression while the car's running from the scan tool, which I think is really awesome. Just like with the injectors or spark plugs or anything, if you're taking these out, make sure you blow all this junk off top side of your cylinder head. Let's get some of this other extra nonsense off of here. I'll add these to my coolant hose collection that came in clutch on the Lupo swap. So allegedly, this is the part that was replaced, and somehow a bolt went in the engine. I don't know what world that could actually happen. I'm skeptical. This is our cam position sensor. We don't need that. Now, even though I just said I don't know how anybody could drop a bolt into an engine while doing some of this stuff here, there are hardware on this car that's not factory, so never underestimate somebody's ability to do something wrong. Look at that monstrosity here. We just got a little old 4-cylinder now. Okay, it's time to readdress our injectors. Now I actually got 2 loose and it wasn't pretty. There is a special tool, right? We don't make drinking games out of certain things, and when I say there's a special tool, don't ever do it. I don't have that tool, so we're gonna improvise. I'm also trying to save these injectors. If I wasn't trying to save these injectors, I wouldn't care. I would have vice gripped right here at the top, snatched them right out. I did, however, rig up a vice grip situation onto my slide hammer. Now, this is similar to how the factory one goes. Now, we can't go all the way up because we have this dumb bracket right here. So we gotta kind of do them both together. Oh, I think that did it. Yes, special tool creation 101, it worked. All right, here's our nasty fuel injectors. They go pretty far in. Don't worry about that. You can really see the part that goes into the cylinder and how gross that is. And so the car that this engine came out of, they did end up putting a new engine in it, and then they didn't do any kind of tear down, because listen, if you're a shop, why are you gonna tear down an engine you know is bad? Okay, here we go. Cams have been accessed. There's a couple of other pieces I'm gonna take off of this engine real quick, like the vacuum pump here at the back, and then we're gonna get up close and personal with this cam setup because it's super interesting. So here's our 2 camshafts, right? Here's our exhaust cam. This camshaft is the one that's driven by the timing belt. So we'll call it power, like flow of power, from crank to cam. The gear here rotates this camshaft. This will allow our exhaust valves to open down, and then to the back here, you can see we have these 2 gears. These are like synchro mesh to each other. So if you take this apart and you have to retime your cams, there is a special jig that you need to set all this stuff up in order to make sure that the synchronization between these 2 gears is 100% right. Remember, our gears need to be, or our belt needs to be all perfectly timed, otherwise we're gonna have an engine that doesn't run correctly. What's cool though about this engine is if you put the cams in the right spot, there's little notches made into them that allow you to take your triple square, access the head bolt, and take the head bolts off. So we can take this cylinder head off without taking the camshafts out of the girdle. So all of those that we ever had to do, nobody ever had to detime the cylinder head. You of course had to take the belt off and remove it, but you didn't have to mess with the mesh of the camshafts. And I was very thankful for that. But since we're in teardown territory, let's take all the bolts out. By the way, I'm pretty confident our damage is in the bottom end because even with the belt off, I was rotating the crankshaft around and it felt very unhappy. So kind of like how the FSIs and the TSIs have that cam bridge, that's very similar to how this is. This looks pretty good. There's a little bit of wear on the bearing surface, but not bad. Honestly, not anything I'd even worry about. Our cam looks good. This is the perfect time to pivot to our turbo. And this is just like a whole barrel of brackets and EGR stuff. This would be all completely covered up with emissions controls. So DPF, downpipe, all that stuff's gonna live right here. I have had to replace these EGR coolers a couple times. It sucks. By the way, this screw that I'm taking off right here, most certainly from the factory is not a giant Phillips head with like 5 washers stacked in it. Here's another fun diesel thing. You remember the ALHs? Mark IV up to like very, very, very late Mark IV. They would get so carboned up in the intake manifold that the hole for air to pass through would be like that big. That's all the room for air. So what we did is we'd take them off, we'd clean them out, and then you take the car and go rip it, and the car would have like 50 more horsepower, it would seem. I did try and spin the inside of this turbine, and it is very jammed up. So my assumption is this turbo would be cooked as well. We've got our long block now stripped all the way down. Flip it over, oil pan off, see what we see down there. How much juicing do we got happening? Just dust. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Why is there only 2 oil pan bolts, you say? It's a great question. Let's find out. Oh, damn! Chunks, chunks. Oh my goodness. It's like a Salt Bay situation. Cool. Definitely bottom end. This piece right here is our balance shaft module. This is what drives our oil pump. Our oil pickup is missing. Did that happen when they swapped engines? I don't know. But right here, did someone do a rebuild on this and not put the pickup on? And believe it or not, this is gonna blow your noodle apart. When you do that, your engine doesn't survive very long. I'm starting to think it's less likely that someone dropped a bolt. I don't say this very often. That's a major, major F up. This is why I hate working on diesels. They're yucky. And it's thick, it's like. So here's our balance shafts. Oh wait, what's this? Uh-oh. I don't know what this actually is. It's very thin. And it feels like it's probably a piece of a bearing. Let's set this to the side for our "you're possibly a catastrophe." The bearings don't look bad, but they are full of metal. Our gears look okay. The shafts seem okay. I'm gonna take the cylinder head off because I wanna see how high up each of the pistons go. Because they're companions, right? These 2 and 3 are the same, 1 and 4 are the same, which means they should come up to the same height roughly. We're gonna see if that makes any difference. That should be everything for our cylinder head. Maybe worth mentioning as I get this head up. The EGR runs through the cylinder head. Valves look good. We might have made a little impact when we, oh, all right, cool. So 2 things I'm noticing. So not only does it look like cylinder 1 is considerably lower than cylinder 4. So first of all, you can see 4 move first, then 1 starts to move. that protrudes up, and this one is still below. Probably 1.5 millimeters, give or take. Enough that though we can like visually see it's above the deck of the block. In addition to that, you can see impact damage all across the top of this piston. On 4, on 1, on 2, and on the cylinder head. Everybody but cylinder 3 got some real deep sadness on this engine. What exactly causes that? Well, some sort of foreign object in the engine. If this were one cylinder and it was a bit more, like bigger divots, I guess, I would say, yeah, somebody for sure dropped a bolt into this engine and grenaded it. With how much little damage there is, and how we would have to have something in 3 of the 4 cylinders, I don't know if this is so much now workmanship as maybe just poor rebuild habits. I don't know, because whatever can impact the piston has to be solid. It's in 3 cylinders. Normally you don't have things like bouncing in between cylinders. But here's the question. What does it mean that piston 1 doesn't come up all the way like piston 4 and 2 and even 3 does? That's very likely the noise this engine was making. That's cylinder 1 connecting rod bouncing around, probably because there's no bearing in it. Why would there be no bearing? Well, that's likely what all of our metal was that we found strewn about the place. That is aggressive. On a plus note, this should come right out because there's nothing really keeping it together. So that's our cap. Oh yeah. So there's no bearing there. Oh no, there's a little bit of a bearing in there. It's now part of the crankshaft. Either that piston is not coming all the way up because there's no bearing. So instead of the hole being this big, it's more like the hole's this big, so it's not gonna drive it all the way to the top. The other option, it could be that we have a bent connecting rod. Either one of those 2 things would cause what we got going on. If you're rebuilding your engine, don't do what I just did, please. All right. It doesn't look bent, but boy, oh boy, do we have some sadness on that crankshaft. Let me pull the other one off. So when we pull this off, this is what it should look like. This is our bearing surface. It's a little boogered up, not super happy, but it's there. Look at the crankshaft journal here, and then look at it for cylinder 1. This bearing is completely roasted and now seized to the crankshaft, to the point where it's like, it's not even there. By the way, this is bad engine disassembly practices that I'm doing right now. Don't do this at home. This one actually may seem worse on the piston side. It's like flat spotted. Why don't we run these in the sonic cleaner? Now it makes me wonder which one was the one actually causing the drag. Was it 4? Since we're here, we're gonna take off the remaining 2 pistons. Oh, I think we might have sadness. Oh yeah, would you just look at it. Nuked bearing side A. So normally like the surface tension of the oil will hold the bearing in place. This one's, it's just cooked. I told you it was cooked. The first thing I said in this video was that this engine may not have been seized, but it was definitely cooked. Well, we have delivered. This is the flat Stanley version of the bearing. For comparison's sake, this isn't even like a perfect bearing. Yeah, and then here's our flat Stanley version. I'm actually really starting to think if somebody didn't forget the oil pump and it just got like taken out for inspection and then tossed, what the heck could have happened? Like oil starvation's real. I guess oil pump failure could be. There we go. Boy, look at these journals, wow. We do need to pull this last piston out because I want to rotate this around by hand and see if our dragging is completely gone or we still have some extra drag. Yeah, it's all just scored up on the upper part of the piston. Oh man, it's still dragging. It's still it's not as bad, but like, I should be able to turn this by hand. And I mean, I got a pretty big ratchet on here, so let's take the mains off. Also, I want to point out, throughout this build, we've been using some Milwaukee tools. The primary one I've been using is this older subcompact, right? This little impact wrench, which is awesome. 3/8 drive, I have a 1/2-inch drive as well. I think these came out last year. The other one you've seen me use, which I made a terrible mistake because I said this was only gonna be for interior work, is the brand new like super mini one. Look at how small this Look at how much smaller this thing is than the old one. And by old, like a year, maybe 2 years old. This one's 1/4 inch drive, which the majority of the tools I use day to day are 1/4 inch drive. But if you have this, I don't know that you need to upgrade to this, although it's awesome and you'd be super happy you did. This thing is awesome. This I'm going to put away because I don't want to get it dirty anymore. Interior work, home run. And short of the head bolts, which I didn't even try for it, it's taken off every bolt that we've asked it to. God, I hate that smell. I don't know, I think I asked this in one of the other videos, like why that smells so bad. If any of you guys know exactly why that old oil smell is so awful, drop that in the comments. I would like to know. This is our second main cap. Oh, it's mushed. Look at, you can see this little piece sticking out. That's from the bearing getting smashed. It's almost like something got dropped on it. Cap looks okay, but the bearing's toast. Oh, you know what we should have done? We should have done these one at a time to figure out which one was actually holding up the engine. This is red. Why is, oh, I wonder if that's just like the coating burned off. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. There we go. Oh, this, don't worry about the bolts, but this one's actually not that bad. Would I reuse this one in a rebuild? No. Would I salvage the crankshaft? Yes. You can see it's got a little scoring in it, and that actually is because the oil feed hole in the crankshaft itself is full of like debris. You know, if that had 250,000 miles on it and that's what it looked like, I wouldn't sweat that. And since we don't know the mileage, maybe that's fine. Thrust washers, which is what this is, those look okay. That controls the forward and back movement of the crankshaft. So this one's a bit worn, but definitely not red. Yeah, that feels more like it's supposed to. Oh, oh, you can hear it, listen. That may be partly related to this rear main seal that I have all partially off. Oh yeah, that's better. It was just the rear main hanging up. Well, friends, there we have it. Did we figure out exactly why this engine failed? Not really. It almost feels like we might have had two separate issues. One causing some of the beating upness of the pistons and the oil starvation issue that we definitely had. How did it get starved for oil? Unknown. There was no oil pump on this engine. That could have been from a teardown for an inspection before we got it. It could have been from we did some work on it and never, jeez, I hope it's not that. Never actually put the oil pump in it. The truth of the matter is, this was a pretty bad engine. I would say this one hits second place as far as bad engines go, right behind the 3-liter supercharged that we did a teardown on a couple of years ago, which if you wanna see a fully seized, can't even budge the crankshaft to engine teardown video, that's your video, I'll link it below. Otherwise, how about that? You need oil for your engine to function properly.